Billionaire Raymond Brooks arrived home unannounced, and the moment he stepped into the hallway, he heard something he had not heard in 8 months, the sound of his triplets' voices. His hands began to shake because Olivia, Kendra, and Rose had not spoken a single word since their mother died. He followed the sound slowly, his breath tight, and when he pushed open the dining room door, his knees almost gave out. His daughters were singing softly, their little hands on a birthday cake. And right behind them stood Mary Jane, the maid he hired only to clean floors. Raymond felt the floor move under his feet because nothing in that room made sense. Nothing should have been possible. And what he saw on their faces scared him more than silence ever did. Raymond Brooks left his mansion early that morning, telling his staff he would be in meetings all day. But his heart felt heavy, and his mind could not rest, so after driving halfway to the city, something pulled him back. He turned the car around and drove home in silence, his hands shaking slowly on the wheel. He did not plan to come home early. He did not warn anyone. He just moved like a man following a voice he could not explain. For 8 months, his house had been painfully quiet, a silence so deep that even footsteps felt too loud. His triplets, Olivia, Kendra, and Rose, had not spoken since their mother died, and every room in the mansion felt like a memory that hurt. Raymond tried to stay busy with work, tried to hide inside his office, tried to drown the pain, but nothing changed. The girls kept shrinking into themselves, and the home that once held joy now felt like a large, empty shell. When he reached the front door, he placed the key inside the lock, but before turning it, he paused. Something felt strange. His hand trembled as he pushed the door open. At first, the mansion looked the same, still and quiet. But then his ears caught something soft, a sound. He froze completely. The sound was faint, gentle, almost impossible. It was the sound of children humming. It was the sound of voices he had not heard since the funeral. His heart tightened slowly inside his chest. He stood still, listening with fear and confusion. The sound grew a little louder. It came from deep inside the house. Slowly, he followed it. He walked past the living room, his shoes tapping gently on the floor, each step filled with fear. He was scared to believe it, scared to imagine something that might not be real. The sound felt warm, gentle, and alive, everything the house had not been for months. Every step he took made him more confused. He walked down the hallway, moving toward the dining room, and the sound became clearer. He heard small voices, soft singing, the kind of sound that should have belonged to happier times. His hand shook when he reached for the dining room door. He touched the handle with weak fingers, breathing slowly, scared of what he might see. His girls had not smiled in months, had not eaten well, had not played, had not lived like children. How could there be singing now in this house filled with sorrow? When he pushed the door open, the air left his body. He stood there, unable to move. His triplets were sitting at the table. Olivia wore a blue dress, her hands covered in white frosting. Kendra in red was staring at a small birthday cake. Rose in green had crumbs on her face. They were smiling quietly, shyly, but they were smiling. And right behind them stood Mary Jane, the maid he hired only 3 weeks ago, her hands still holding a towel, her eyes calm and warm. For a moment, Raymond could not breathe. The sight hit him so deeply that his legs felt weak. His girls had not looked alive like this in 8 long months. They had not touched a cake, had not sat together with any joy, had not looked at anything with interest. Yet here they were, breathing, present, and holding on to something he could not understand. The room smelled like vanilla, sugar, and something he thought he lost forever. It smelled like his late wife's kitchen. The girls turned slowly when they noticed him. Olivia's small voice escaped first, a soft whisper, calling, "Daddy." The name shook him. Hearing it again almost broke him in half. His girls had spoken. They had chosen to speak.
He felt tears pressing behind his eyes, hot and heavy, and his body trembled like he could not hold anything together. Mary Jane stepped back quietly, giving space. She did not speak. She simply watched the moment with gentle eyes, as if she understood the weight of what was happening. The girls looked unsure, almost scared that he might be angry, but they did not hide. They did not run. They stayed sitting in their chairs, holding on to the small cake they had made with shaky hands and brave hearts. Raymond's voice cracked when he tried to speak. He whispered, How is this happening?" He looked at Mary Jane with disbelief. She lowered her eyes and said nothing, letting the moment rest in his hands. The girls moved slowly toward him, each step soft and careful, as if he might disappear. Olivia reached him first and touched his arm. Her touch felt like a miracle he did not deserve. He felt tears fall down his face, heavy, warm, painful, and healing at the same time. The house that had felt dead now felt alive. The silence that crushed him for months had been broken. He pulled the girls close, his voice trapped in his throat. He didn't know what happened, didn't understand how Mary Jane had reached them, didn't know how to ask, but he knew one thing with deep certainty. Something had shifted, something had opened, and nothing in this house would ever be the same.
Raymond held his triplets for a long moment in the dining room, their small bodies pressed against him, their tiny fingers gripping his shirt like they were scared to let go. When they finally stepped back, he wiped his face slowly, still shaking, still unsure how any of this was possible. The room felt warm, almost peaceful, but he could not stop thinking about the last 8 months. Months where these same girls sat in silence like shadows. Now they had spoken, and he did not know how to take it in. He looked at Mary Jane, the young maid standing quietly near the table. Her hands were folded in front of her, and her eyes were gentle, watching the girls with calm care. She had not said a single word since he entered the room. She stayed still, as if she did not want to claim any credit, as if she wanted the moment to belong only to the family. Raymond cleared his throat slowly and asked, "Mary Jane, what happened here? How did all this start?" His voice was soft, shaky, searching for answers. Mary Jane looked down for a second, then raised her eyes to meet his. She spoke in a quiet voice. "Sir, your daughters have a lot of sadness inside them, so much that they did not know how to let it out. I did not fix anything, I only stayed with them and made space for them." She said the words slowly, like she did not want to rush the truth. Raymond listened carefully, confused but grateful, unsure how such simple words could create such change. He looked back at the girls, their faces still carrying a little frosting, their eyes soft and shy. They stood close together the same way they always did, but their shoulders looked less heavy now. He knelt down in front of them and asked in a trembling voice, "Did you make this cake?" Olivia gave a tiny nod, then looked at her sisters for courage. Rose whispered, "Mary Jane helped us," and her voice shook a little, like she was still learning how to speak again after months of silence. Raymond swallowed the lump in his throat. "Why today?" he asked gently. The girls looked at each other again. Then Kendra stepped forward and said in a very soft voice, "It smells like Mama's cake." The words went through Raymond like a knife, sharp and deep. His late wife Lisa used to bake this same cake every year. He looked at Mary Jane again, confused and full of questions. "How did you know about this recipe?" he asked. Mary Jane's hands tightened slightly. She looked nervous, almost scared. She took a breath and said, "Sir, your late wife's study I cleaned a few days ago. I found her journal locked inside a drawer. She wrote down this recipe and many other things for the girls. I read it slowly, and I saw she planned something special for their 8th birthday." Raymond felt a cold feeling pass through his chest. His wife had written down everything, and he had forgotten their birthday completely. He stood up slowly, his legs weak. He said, "You should have told me."
Mary Jane nodded and looked down at her hands. "I know, sir. But I was afraid you would say no. I was afraid it would hurt too much for you." Raymond felt anger rise inside him, but it was not anger at her, it was anger at himself. He had slipped so deep into his grief that even the mention of his wife's name made him feel like he could not breathe. He had forgotten his daughter's birthday because he was trying not to face the pain. The girls were watching him silently, their faces lowered. He knelt down in front of them and asked in a trembling voice, "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice shaking. "I should have remembered. I should have been here." Olivia reached out and touched his cheek carefully. "We know you're sad, Daddy," she whispered. The gentleness of her voice made his eyes fill again. Mary Jane stepped back, giving them space. She walked toward the kitchen quietly and wiped the counter slowly as if she did not want to interrupt. He watched her for a moment, noticing something he had not seen before. She moved like someone who understood pain, someone who knew how to carry heavy feelings without dropping them. She did not rush. She did not push. She simply stayed present. He stood up and walked toward her. She turned slowly, waiting. "How did you reach them?" he asked, still confused, still emotional. She held her hands together and said, "Children do not always need answers or big words, sir. Sometimes they just need someone to sit in the sadness with them, someone who does not tell them to be strong, someone who lets them feel what they feel." Raymond stared at her quietly, surprised at how simple her explanation was. His daughters came into the kitchen and stood behind him. They looked at Mary Jane with trust, a trust he had not seen them give anyone since their mother died. Rose tugged Mary Jane's sleeve gently and whispered, "Can we finish eating, please?" Mary Jane smiled softly and nodded. Raymond watched them sit at the table again, their shoulders close, their small hands touching the cake carefully. He sat down with them, still shocked, still trying to understand everything that happened. His eyes moved from the cake to his daughters, then to Mary Jane. Something had changed, something powerful and quiet, something he could not yet explain. He knew one thing, though, something that he felt deep inside his chest. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. And whatever came next would not be simple, but it would matter.
That night, after the birthday cake was finished and the girls were tucked into bed, Raymond found himself walking through the quiet mansion with a strange feeling inside his chest. The house no longer felt as cold as before, but he still carried a heavy weight, a weight that came from guilt, fear, and love all mixed together. He paused outside his daughter's room and listened to their soft breathing. For months he had feared he would never hear their voices again. Now they had spoken, and he still could not fully believe it. He walked downstairs to the study that once belonged to his wife Lisa. He had not stepped into that room since the day she died. His hand trembled when he touched the doorknob. Slowly, he pushed the door open. The room smelled faintly of old paper and perfume, a scent that made his eyes sting. Her books were still on the shelves, her chair was still in the same place, her pictures were on the desk. It felt like she had just stepped out for a moment, even though she had been gone for 8 long months. He moved to the desk and sat down. His fingers brushed against a small drawer, the one Mary Jane had talked about. He opened it slowly and found the leather journal inside. His heart pulled tight. He lifted the journal with shaking hands and opened it. On the first page, he saw Lisa's handwriting, neat and soft, the same handwriting she used when she wrote notes for the girls. He flipped through the pages and read her words: birthday plans, recipes, small stories, reminders of things she never wanted the girls to forget. He paused on a page that described how Olivia liked blue ribbons, how Kendra loved chocolate chips, and how Rose always giggled when flour touched her nose. He closed his eyes slowly, remembering moments he had forgotten, moments he had always left to Lisa because she was the one who understood the girls better. A tear dropped onto the page. He wiped it away with the back of his hand, but more tears came. He turned another page and found the unfinished letter, the one Mary Jane mentioned. He read the words slowly, his breath shaking. Lisa had written about wanting their 8th birthday to be full of joy, even if she was not there. She wrote that the girls should keep living, keep laughing, keep loving. Her handwriting stopped in the middle of a sentence, as if she ran out of time. He closed the journal and pressed it to his chest. He whispered, "I should have read this sooner." His voice broke inside the quiet room. He leaned forward and rested his forehead on the desk. The guilt felt heavy, but under it something warm began to grow, a small push telling him it was not too late to change. He could still be the father his daughters needed. After a long moment, he stood up and wiped his face. He walked out of the study and headed toward the kitchen. The lights were still on. Mary Jane was there, quietly washing the last dish. She turned when she heard him, her face gentle, her eyes tired but calm. She dried her hands with a cloth and waited for him to speak. "I read the journal," Raymond said softly. She nodded and looked down at her hands. "I understand now. You were trying to follow her plans. You were trying to honor what she left behind." Mary Jane raised her eyes slowly. "Sir, I only wanted the girls to feel seen again, to feel love again. I did not try to replace their mother. I only tried to carry the love she left behind." Raymond nodded, breathing slowly. "You did more than that. You brought them back to life. I do not know how you did it, but you did." Mary Jane looked away for a moment, her voice gentle. "I did not fix them, sir. I just stayed with them. Sometimes when a heart is broken, the only thing it needs is someone who does not leave." Raymond felt something shift inside him, something heavy lifting just a little. He moved closer to Mary Jane. He said quietly, "Tell me the truth. Were they always this close to opening up, or did something special happen?" Mary Jane hesitated, then nodded. "There was a moment," she said softly. "Olivia asked me why I hummed all the time. When I answered, she cried, and her sisters cried with her. They let the hurt out. After months of silence, they finally let it out." Raymond closed his eyes, feeling a painful but honest truth. He had been so busy hiding from his grief that he had not seen theirs. Mary Jane stepped forward slightly, her voice calm. "Sir, your daughters love you. They feel your sadness even when you try to hide it. They need you to show up, even if you don't know what to say." He breathed deeply. "I want to show up. I just don't know how." Mary Jane gave a small nod. "Then start small, sir. Sit with them. Listen to them. Let them tell you about their mother. Let the memories be alive again." He looked at her quietly. She was young, simple, without fancy education or powerful words, yet everything she said made sense. She had stepped into this home with nothing but kindness, and somehow she had become the only person who understood what her daughters needed. He exhaled slowly and said, "I want to try. I want to be present. Not just today, but every day." Mary Jane smiled gently. "That is all they want, sir." The house felt still for a moment, but not the heavy stillness from before. This stillness felt like the calm before change, calm before a new beginning. Raymond looked around the kitchen and then at the stairs where his daughters slept. He felt a soft promise rising inside him, a promise to be better. He turned to Mary Jane and said quietly, "Tomorrow I will start." And for the first time in months, he meant it.
The next morning, the mansion felt different. The air felt softer, lighter, almost like the house itself was learning how to breathe again. Raymond woke up early, something he had not done willingly in months. He lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, remembering the change he saw in his daughters the day before, remembering their voices, their smiles, their trust. He knew he could not lose that again. He got out of bed slowly
and walked toward his daughter's room. When he reached the door, he paused. For months he had opened this door with fear, afraid he would find his daughter still locked in silence. But today, he felt something new inside him, something warm. He opened the door slowly. The triplets were awake, sitting together on their shared bed, talking softly in the quiet morning light. Olivia looked up first and smiled shyly. "Good morning, Daddy," she whispered. The simple greeting touched him deeply. "Good morning, my loves," he replied, his voice tender. He sat beside them, unsure how to begin. Rose gently placed her small hand on his leg. "Are you staying home today?" she asked. Raymond hesitated. He had meetings, calls, business waiting, but none of that mattered now. "Yes," he said softly, "I am staying with you today." Kendra leaned against him carefully, her voice small. "We like when you stay." He hugged all three of them slowly, giving them the calm he never managed to give before. Downstairs, Mary Jane was already in the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast. She hummed the same gentle tune she always used, the same one that comforted the girls. She looked up when Raymond walked in. He thanked her quietly, his voice filled with a sincerity he could not hide. She smiled softly and continued cooking. The girls joined them soon after, still wearing their colorful birthday dresses from the day before. They did not want to take them off yet. The dresses made them feel close to their mother. At the table, the girls spoke more than they had in months. They talked about the cake, about the colors, about how the kitchen smelled like their mother. Raymond listened quietly, absorbing every word. He did not interrupt. He did not rush. He simply listened, just like Mary Jane told him to. After breakfast, Rose looked at her father and asked, "Can we show you something?" He nodded. The girls led him into the living room, where they pulled out drawings they had hidden for months. Pictures of their mother, pictures of themselves, pictures of the family they once were. Raymond sat on the floor with them, slowly going through each drawing. He touched each page gently, trying to understand all the memories they had kept inside while he drowned in his own grief. "These are beautiful," he whispered. Olivia sat closer to him. "We stopped drawing when you got too sad," she said softly. Raymond lowered his head, ashamed, but grateful for their honesty. "I am not too sad to see them now. I want to see everything you make." Mary Jane watched from the hallway, standing quietly so the moment belonged to them. She knew this was the beginning of healing, slow but real. She continued her work silently, giving the family their space. Later in the afternoon, Raymond took the girls outside to the backyard. It was the first time he had spent real time with them outside since Lisa's death. The sunlight touched their hair as they walked through the garden. The girls pointed at flowers their mother planted, memories rising in their voices like soft waves. "Mama loved these ones," Olivia said, touching a small white rose. Kendra added, "They smell like hope." Raymond knelt beside them and breathed in the scent. He felt something loosen inside him, something that had been locked for too long. For a moment, he imagined Lisa standing beside them, watching her daughters rediscover joy, watching him try his best to be present. He closed his eyes slowly, letting the warmth settle in his chest. When they returned inside, Raymond saw Mary Jane wiping down the dining table. He walked toward her, his eyes soft. "Thank you for not giving up on them," he said gently. She looked up, surprised by the tone in his voice. "Sir, I only did what any loving person would do. Your daughters needed someone to sit with them until the sadness felt lighter." Raymond nodded slowly. "You helped them in ways I never could. You helped me, too." Mary Jane looked away shyly, not sure how to respond. She finished cleaning and stepped aside so he could pass. He paused, noticing the quiet strength in her presence, the calm way she moved, the gentle way she treated his children. She had become part of their healing, part of their home. As evening approached, the girls gathered in the kitchen again. They asked Mary Jane if she could hum while they colored. She smiled and sat near them. Raymond joined them, sitting on the other side of the table. For the first time in 8 months, he felt like a father again, not a broken man hiding behind work. Later, when the girls were asleep, Raymond walked into the study once more. He picked up Lisa's journal and read her unfinished letter again. He reached for a pen with steady hands. With slow care, he wrote a new message underneath her words, promising the girls he would be there, promising he would show up, promising he would honor the love she left behind. He closed the journal and whispered into the room, "Thank you, Lisa, for guiding me back." Then he walked upstairs, past Mary Jane's room, and paused for a moment. He whispered softly, "Thank you, Mary Jane, for giving us back our home." The house felt alive again, warm again, filled with voices again. A broken family was learning to stand together, slowly, gently, one quiet moment at a time. And as Raymond walked to his own room, he realized something he had forgotten long ago. Healing does not happen fast. Healing happens when love refuses to leave.
Dear viewers, this story shows that even when a family is broken, love can still rise again. Raymond thought he had lost everything, but one gentle woman helped his daughters find their voices and helped him find his way back to them. Healing does not happen fast. That happens when someone refuses to leave your side. Tell us where you're watching from and what you learned from this story. Like, subscribe, and share. And if you want more emotional stories, comment "more stories." Now, 3 questions for you. 1. Who was the strongest heart in this story? 2. What moment touched you most? And 3. Do you believe love can heal pain?